Hello everyone and welcome to the Smashy Business Show. Today is Friday, March 14, 2024. My name is Abdul Majid Awan.
And I'm Warid Ahmed, and we have got an insane episode for you today and even more insane topics. So for our headlines today, firstly, Chinese automakers are gaining ground in the UAE as the Ramadan competition is really heating up. Secondly, PwC's consulting ban from PIF has Deloitte and EV and others hunting for work, according to Bloomberg. And finally, the Saudi Pro League still leads in spending despite a 52% drop.
And also stay with us till the end to find out about Dubai's famous Abraaj group and the agency theory and how they're linked. So first of all, the very first story about Chinese automakers, they're making major inroads into the UAE market, shaking up traditional Ramadan sales strategies. With inflation driving buyers to demand bigger discounts, legacy car brands from Japan, the US, Europe are facing intense competition. And that was a report by AGBI recently.
Now, that's very true. Now, according to the Middle East Automotive Council, Chinese automakers' market share in the UAE has jumped from 4% to nearly 7% in 2024, an 86% surge in units sold. Now, brands like Geely, Haval, Jetour, and BYD are capitalizing on their lower prices and tech-packed features, giving them a serious competitive edge.
And Ramadan has traditionally been a key period for car sales, but this year buyers aren't swayed by the usual promotions like free insurance, extended warranties. And Imtishan Giado of Motoring Middle East, he told AGBI that Ramadan offers aren't working like before. Even luxury car buyers, which are very expensive, they want lower prices on them. And Chinese brands are selling without offering major discount, and they're still selling more cars.
Now, a prime example is BYD, China's leading electric vehicle maker, which has been selling 500 to 1,000 cars a month since September 2024. And Al-Futtaim Electric Mobility expects that number to reach up to 10,000 sales in 2025.
Yeah, and to be honest, this trend isn't just in the UAE, it's global. China's BYD overtook Tesla in EV sales in the fourth quarter of last year, selling 3 million cars last year. And meanwhile, Tesla's China-made sales have plunged nearly 50% in February 2025, their worst performance since 2022.
Honestly, Majid, I completely understand this due to the fact that, you know, these new electrical vehicles, by the way, they're absolutely amazing. Yeah. And I think a prime example for me is not just Jetour, but also Geely. Yeah. Geely is amazing.
Everywhere. And it's everywhere.
I love, by the way, Geely, you know how much it costs to actually fill your tank and drive around for 1 week? Only 100 dirhams.
Nice.
I mean, for the cost of oil, what's happening with oil right now, 100 dirhams for a tank per week?
Yeah.
Per week, and you're driving around to a bunch of far places? No, like, I completely understand it. But to be honest with you, this discussion kind of reminds me of what happened to the Honda-Nissan $60 billion merger deal and how it just completely fell.
Yeah. And Nissan they have tried a new CEO and they think maybe it will work. Everyone is trying a new CEO nowadays. Recently, Starbucks did it like 6-7 months ago. Brian Niccol is trying to get back. Yesterday, I was reading actually something about Starbucks. They're trying to bring more chairs and more seating because they're trying to separate their out-of-home orders like delivery orders and takeaway orders. And they're trying to make the people more comfortable. And that was like Starbucks in the start as well. They always wanted people to sit in their place, read a book, charge their phone and all that, right? But now their strategy is that they increase all of that. I don't know how the Middle Eastern market will be affected by that. Maybe the Starbucks stores in our malls will see them expand, or maybe we'll see more seating there now. But yeah, people are changing CEOs trying to, like, they think it's like a hack to go back to growth, but I don't think it works. You just can't change one person and expect everything to go right?
Authority doesn't completely change everything, and I feel like we really saw that in the Honda-Nissan merger because I remember it was reported by Reuters that the reason why the deal fell is because Nissan felt like this was going to be a merger, like we were going to become a family, we were going to become one, but it actually turned out that Honda just wanted Nissan to be their subsidiary.
Yeah,
I mean,
because
I would
Honda
be
is doing
offended
better,
too.
right?
It does make sense.
Apparently, globally, both are doing bad, but Honda is still comparatively doing better than Nissan. So they thought of it as a takeover. Nissan thought of it as a merger. But yeah, it fell off, and it was one of it. If it like worked out, if it was implemented, the whole thing worked out, it would have been one of the biggest deals in the world in automotive industry. But yeah, regarding this story, it's clear that cars are priced right, and the consumers think that they're worth this much amount. They're selling. Even if they are not offering Ramadan deal or discounts, they are selling. So you need to, I guess, price everything right to like hit the chords of the heart of the consumer to make them. And Chinese cars, as you said, the options are unlimited. That's the most important thing for me. I don't, to be honest, mind the options. I'm like, okay, the window should go down. That's it. But there's so many options in them.
Have you ever heard that saying that German cars are the best?
Yeah. Apparently, their engines and their bodies are the most perfect
that if
ones.
you like crash, you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
You're going to be okay. And I totally believe that. But, right now, let's get into the topic of how PwC in Saudi Arabia is just completely crashing. So PwC's consulting ban from PIF has Deloitte, EV, and others hunting for work. Now, a major shakeup in Saudi Arabia's consulting industry has these rivals really eyeing for new opportunities. Now, the Public Investment Fund, PIF, has banned PwC from advisory work for a year, opening the door for competitors to expand their presence in the kingdom.
And yes, perfectly true word. Rivals firms like Deloitte and Ernst & Young are already preparing for increased workload. With senior managers, they have directed their staff to be ready for more contracts and obviously more hours and more work. But some firms have even been invited to bid for major projects now, including NEOM and Al Ula, according to sources quoted by Bloomberg, obviously.
Now, PIF's decision applies only to PwC's consulting services. Now, the firm can still pursue auditing contracts. Now, while PwC has not publicly addressed the reasons behind the ban, a memo from regional managing partner Ken Walsh assured staff that it was not related to service delivery or regulatory breaches. Now, PwC's global chairman, Mohammed Kande, has reportedly traveled to Riyadh in recent weeks.
Yeah, and I think it was to try to get the contracts back. But PwC, with them being sidelined, competitors see a golden opportunity. And that's like, I think, the important thing in every market. Whenever one goes down, everyone tries to bag on their opportunity. But there's a major challenge that limited local pool of consultants is causing problems for Saudi Arabia. And to tackle this, Ernst & Young have flown in over a dozen staffers from other offices in preparation for potential new projects. So it's a hint towards this thing that they are going to get those contracts because there is demand. Saudis still need consultants. And as soon as these guys fly in and they get the contracts, the work will start.
Now, you know what's really interesting about all of this, Majid, is this is, by the way, how the story went, everyone. Number one, it started with us all opening Google and just suddenly finding out that PwC is banned, their advisory services are banned until 2026. That in itself, that was big news.
Yeah.
And then right after that, this report came out by the Financial Times, which was absolutely interesting, that PwC attempted to recruit NEOM senior executive. Now, the reason why this is really interesting, because if you don't know, the NEOM project, it's a very big project in Saudi Arabia. I believe it's worth $1.5 trillion. It's this mega city that they're trying to build. They're trying to have it ready by 2030. Yeah. And by the way, they're also going to host the World Cup in it. Yeah. It was confirmed by Al Arabiya.
One stadium,
and I find it really interesting because that financial report was basically detailing that this could be the reason of that, why they were banned from their advisory services, them trying to actually, take someone from the NEOM project and hire them in PwC. And by the way, that's very bad. That's very, very bad. I would not say that it's uncommon for something like this where, you start working for your clients. It always happens in the auditing world, in the consulting world. But that doesn't mean that it's right. We know that it's very...
To be honest, it shows bad will. If it is true, it's reported, but if it's true, it shows bad will and it shows conflict of interest, a very big conflict of interest that a person working for a client is moving towards the agency side. It happens in the industry, but there's always clauses like you can't work for a competitor or in the competing market for 1 year, 2 years. So I don't know how they would have done it, how they would have carried out the whole deal.
I think it also depends on the country.
Yeah, no, but I think everyone has that non-compete clause. It's a universal thing. But the duration depends on country to country. Like for example, if I'm working right now for Smashy Business, to be honest, I never read it, but yeah, I would have a non-compete clause that I can't just randomly go to a competing opponent in the market who are doing the same thing. And to be honest, even keeping the law aside, it's not ethical. Because you learn so much at some place, you know the insider knowledge, right? And then you take all that information, all the training, all the resources that you've built by working at a place and then go implement them somewhere else. It's kind of unethical. It's not even on the moral, legal grounds.
You know what, Majid? It's not just unethical, but for PwC, them trying to hire somebody who, was their client, it's actually also bad for them.
Yeah.
Because you have to think about it like this. You're hiring an auditor, you're hiring a consultant and they work for another company. And you're thinking to yourself, oh, they work for the mega city project like NEOM, they must be really good.
Yeah.
In fact, they won't be that good of an employee for you because of the fact that they'll be very biased. They'll be very biased because they're your friend. They're your friend. They always want to make you happy. And, this always goes around in the auditing world that you never want your auditor to be your best friend. No, really, you never want your auditor to be your best friend because they won't call things out. And even if they find things that are wrong, they'll brush over them because they're like, no, I trust this person.
Yeah.
But an auditor is always meant to, check everything, regulate everything. And so this, yes, this is very bad for NEOM. This is very bad for PIF. But it's actually also bad for PwC, them trying to hire that client.
So coming back to the story, Saudi Arabia is the biggest and fastest growing consulting market in the Gulf right now. It accounts for over half of the region's $6 billion consulting industry. And the PIF is responsible for Kingdom's Vision 20 transformation. We've talked about it a million times. They're trying to make a new Saudi Arabia, to be honest. And they have set up nearly 100 portfolio companies under PIF. We talk about a lot of them every day nearly, because recently one of the companies, Scopely, which is under Savvy Games, acquired Pokemon Go, and every day we find a subsidiary of PIF or some of the biggest sovereign wealth funds in the UAE doing something, right? So it makes it a key revenue driver for consulting firms, the PIF. So let's see. The stakes are high. PwC also generated $2.5 billion in Middle East last year. So them losing contracts, even if they lost $1 billion of the consulting projects, their money will go down, and eventually PwC UK will get affected. And they'll be like, what were you trying to do? Why did you get us such a big loss just trying? If the report is true that the problem was hiring of that person, then they will obviously question the PwC Middle East management that, why did you do it? You're getting so much money out of it.
But
you were profitable. You shouldn't have done that, right?
Majid, just on the topic of wealth funds, I think a wealth fund that isn't discussed enough is Oman's sovereign wealth fund. So they're actually worth, I believe, over $40 billion in assets. And just very recently, I saw that they invested in this U.S. biotech firm.
Yeah.
So, Oman is also getting there. They're also trying to expand and reach for investments that are in other parts of the world. But let's head to our last topic of the day.
Yeah, and on the topic of Oman, just an addition, they also recently invested in XAI. So this invested nearly $2 billion. So were this 100% true that the focus is always on PIF, ADIA, Badla, ADQ sometimes, usually, but Oman, QIA, Qatar Investment Authority, they're a shareholder, like a stakeholder in X and XAI. So we'll do more stories on them. We'll do it. For sure.
Today, Majid, I was listening to Abdul Majid, and he's like the national sweetheart of Saudi Arabia. And I remember in his lyrics, he was going like, his lyrics are always very romantic. He was like, "Anti Khalifat Qalbi," and honestly,
I understand.
What I think,
the Khalifa of my heart.
Yeah, the Khalifa of my heart.
Khalifa means?
And I'm guessing that it basically means you are royal to my heart.
Because
That's
Khalifa,
what
we understand, like from the Urdu version, is like caliph. Yeah, and yeah, kind of like a leader meaning. Yeah, and so yeah.
And I mentioned that because the Saudi Pro League is definitely close to many's hearts in Saudi Arabia, and it's actually doing very, very great.
So, yeah.
Now, despite a significant drop in spending, the Saudi Pro League remains the biggest spender on international signings in the Arab world.
And yes, they've spent $465 million on international transfers, only on the international players they're trying to bring in and like show to the world that, oh, international players are coming in. It was a more than 50% decline. Exactly, it's 52.1%, but more than 50% decline because in 2023, they spent $970 million on international players. And we saw Neymar, Ronaldo, Benzema, all these big names came in that time. So they were spending big, but this time they've cut their spending nearly half. And the shift is like a part of a broader strategy where they're trying to hire younger players, and they are trying to bring them and say that these are the big players that we've signed international, and also we have some of the local Saudi stars. So you train under them and play under them. So it's kind of like they hired the best, they brought them, and now they're bringing young players and telling them like, okay, we're giving you an opportunity to learn from the best, and who else to learn from? One of the best, like Ronaldo.
I don't think it's just driving Saudi youth.
Yeah.
It's driving the world to Saudi.
Yeah.
I think that it definitely adds such like respectable status to the country. I'm hearing that Ronaldo is there. That's something, by the way, that I've still not deeped. I've still not deeped it. I mean, as a kid, I would have never imagined the possibility of Ronaldo just packing up his entire family, Georgina, his children, and living in Saudi Arabia. I mean, that's so great. But it's not just about football here. Saudi's sports sector is now such a key economic driver. In 2023, it contributed $6.9 billion to the country's GDP, which is such a massive jump from $2.4 billion in 2016.
And yes, SPL's spending power has far exceeded regional rivals. So Saudi Arabia was the biggest spender in the Arab region. Second was Egypt, third was UAE. But considering the amount they spend, even the second position was like nearly 20% of their spending. So if they spend 465 million, they only spend about 100 million. So it shows you the power they have right now because of the money they have right now and their dominance in Arab football. And Arab clubs as a whole cut their spending by 45.3%. Very interesting to know that they've cut their spending. But thankfully, because of that, their revenues jumped 40% as well. So now they're being smart with their money. They're not just splashing money. They're being very, very smart and strategic about it, that if we make a investment on a player or on anything, even infrastructure, the gyms and anything, we need some kind of return on it. So very smart move, very businessy move from the sports world. Looking ahead, I think SPL will hire more international players, even on the Smashy Sports Show, which happens today at 11 a.m. UAE time, so you can tune into that as well. Just plunging that in. We usually talk about me, Hisham, Aziz, whoever hosts the show, we always talk about this, that young players now are the target for Saudi Arabia, and not just their own young players, the international young players. And they signed like 4 or 5 big names who were like 19-year-olds, 16-year-olds, 20-year-olds.
Let's see if they can get Lemmy in.
Yeah.
Let's see if they can do that. But Majid, actually, you know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of Wadim. Vadim, who we spoke to, the founder
Vadim Fedotov.
The founder of Bionic, and he actually revealed how Cristiano Ronaldo became such a major shareholder and joined them in their $15 million Series B investment, and that later on he actually even invested in stake. And it's so interesting because I think, we're obviously constantly talking about Saudi Arabia because, of course, they're the major player here. But what I love about Ronaldo is that is a player who sees potential in the field and outside of the field. And you know, we see it in how he's committed to his life in Saudi Arabia and being a part of their society, but he's also committed to investing in, you know, Dubai-based companies, Middle Eastern-based companies, and I think that's something really beautiful to see.
Mainly is he has to plan his life after retirement, right? He's turned 41, 42 right now.
Yeah.
The celebration video is crazy. But yeah, he has to plan his life. And usually we've seen in the past, like the idols of my time, the footballing idols, a lot of them are not doing great. A lot of them are in debt. Ronaldinho is one of the biggest examples. Like it's very clearly stated out for everyone that he's not doing good money-wise. But this is very smart from Ronaldo that he doesn't think that football will be all there all his life. So he's made very strategic investments. In the morning, Rich shared a story on Smashy Style, I guess. There's a perfume line that he's launched. He has a watches collection. He recently invested in paddle infrastructure in Portugal. So throughout Portugal, he's building paddle courts, and all those courts are sponsored by his company. So yeah, he's building that. So imagine he understands that he won't be a player all day. And reportedly, when they were renewing his contract this year with Al Nassr as well, they gave him a 5% stake of the company. So he's like, this is reported, it still hasn't been clarified or like verified by any...
It was given to him.
Yeah.
He did not ask for it.
Yeah, obviously, you have to stop such a big player with something, and I think the pay that they are giving him justified because he came and everyone followed him. And then 5% stake has been reportedly given to him. So yeah, now he actually has a very nice stake in Saudi Arabia. So he's not going anywhere. So yeah, that's it for the 3 stories for today. Let's just go to our interesting thing that we're trying. And if you guys like it, just tell us in the comments. Today we're going to talk about Abraaj Group's collapse and the ethical oversight.
Yes.
So the Abraaj Group, it was once a very prominent private equity firm based in Dubai, and they managed assets totaling approximately 13.6 billion. And it was founded by Arif Naqvi, he's a Pakistani guy, in 2002. And the firm focused on investments across emerging markets.
Yeah. Now, in 2018, allegations surfaced accusing Abraaj of mismanaging investor funds, leading to its eventual liquidation. So, you know, when a company is liquidated, that means that's it. It's done. They've gone bankrupt. It's shutting down. Now, this situation highlights the agency theory, which was introduced by economists Michael Jensen and William Meckling in 1976. And the theory separates owners of a business from managers of the business. And the firm's collapse underscores the critical need for transparency and robust governance structures to align management's interests with those of investors.
Yeah, it's a very nice theory that you're an owner. For example, private equity firms, I give you my money, you manage my money. So I will care more about my money, you will care less about my money because you're just managing it. You don't own that money, right? So agency theory says that you have to separate the two and you have to understand their intentions. So whenever it's like eye-opening theory for investors that if you invest with someone, through a firm, just don't trust them blindly. Because for them, it's just your money which they'll invest and eventually make a profit out of it and take their percentage. So you have to be more careful about your money.
Majid, honestly, I do think it's completely true because I even hear it in like different conversations all the time.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I'll hear someone complaining about work and how they're always being overworked and how they're always doing a lot and they're really tired and everyone's like, hey, like just clock out when you're meant to clock out. And then they're like, but no, like, things are meant to always go smoothly. And then you'll always hear one person who'll jump in and they'll be like, is it your company?
Yeah.
It's not your company.
So yeah.
And no, I completely agree with you. I think it also depends on the kind of people that work for you. There's this saying, it's called the hidden hand. Oh. You know, the hidden hands that you have that are all a part of your company, that are all doing things. Nice. You just kind of have to ask, you have to know, I feel, does the hidden hand that you have, does it have a good conscience? Nice. I think it all depends on, do you have a good conscience? Do you have a damir? I think, and especially...
you call it damir, we call it zamir. Because we pronounce the dua differently in Urdu, so it's zamir, yeah. So yeah, the book, The Key Man, it was told to us by Rich, our owner. And yeah, apparently The Key Man by Simon Clark and Will Lauch also delves into this narrative. It talks about the whole story, chronicling how the global elite were deceived by a capitalist illusion. Very nice premise of the book, and it provides a very in-depth look at the rise and fall of Arik Naqvi and the Abraaj Group. So yeah, if you get time, do read it. The Key Man by Simon Clark and Will Louch. And that's what we have today for you on the show. Friday, we'll see you back on Monday.
Yes.
And
this is Smashy Business Show, a Smashy Business production under the Augustus Media Podcast Network. You can find our newsletter on Smashy TV. Do make sure to follow us and have a lovely, lovely weekend.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.